hello, everyone. I am here. Yes, yes, yes. I am here. A little sleepy, but here. It's not quite midnight though. I'm earlier than usual. It's 11:22, and I am proud that it's 11:22 and not 12:22. So hey, there you go. I am out here. Yes, 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 I am. It has been a hard week. My car has been in the shop for an entire week. I just got it back today. Two, count them, two tire rods to the tune of hundreds of dollars that I cannot even fathom to say out of my mouth. It was too much money, too much money. But God, the potholes in this city, the city just should just be issuing us all checks, or they should be fixing the roads, one or the other. But this is crazy. But nevertheless, after a week without a car and having to, I even took a lift once this week. It was my first lift experience. I had to take a lift because I needed to get somewhere by a certain time, but my husband was still stuck in a meeting and could not guarantee me that he could get me there by the certain time. And so I had no choice but to take a lift from point A to point B, and it wasn't bad. I'm now officially a Lyft rider. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. Um, but let's see. I don't know who I have out here. It doesn't look like I have anyone yet. So we are going to give it a couple of minutes. Well, maybe not a couple. Maybe just another minute. Ooh, excuse me. To see who I may have coming on. Yes, yes. Just a little while longer. I wasn't out here last night because I think I got super sleepy and didn't think I could make it through. So I went to bed because for some reason I was up super early yesterday doing some things, and so by the time nighttime came, my usual time, my body took over. I was super sleepy, but I am here today to do yesterday's video, and then I will catch up on today's video either Saturday or Sunday, but we will be all caught up by Monday. I like having weekends off because it allows me the opportunity to catch up if I get behind, and so that is beautiful. But we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. We are going to, let's see, I'm trying to get my stuff to act right here. Give me half a second to get this together. But yes, we are picking up from where we left off in our last video. We were finishing chapter 24. Hi, Tanya. It's late for you. It's not late for me. Look. This is earlier than I've been doing the videos, to be honest. Except one day I did it at like 6 o'clock or something. But we left off on chapter 24 when we were talking about Balaam. And you may remember all of the exploits of Balaam, where he was hired to curse God's people, but believed in God and would not do it. I guess especially after your donkey talks to you, you might want to really believe what God is saying to you. And so he couldn't curse God's people. He repetitively said how can I curse what God has blessed? And he repetitively spoke blessings over the children of Israel instead of cursings. Now we open up with chapter 25, spinning off from that, and it talks about how the Israelites sort of fell to the Moabite or Midianite women and started serving Baal. So you might think, whoa, how did we go from here to there? And I was telling you in our last video that although Balaam could not curse the children of Israel, he did not go away moneyless. He did devise a strategy that he shared with Balak on what he could do. And basically he said, seduce them with your women. Seduce them with your women and they will fall, right? And we know this for sure because Revelations tells us. And so if we go to, well, first in 2 Peter, the second chapter, I'll go there first. In 2 Peter, the second chapter, in verse 15, it says, they have left the straight way and wandered off to follow the way of Balaam, son of Bezer, who loved the wages of wickedness. So here in 2 Peter 2 and 15 is telling us how Balaam loved the wages of wickedness, right? But then in Revelations chapter 2, verse 14, it says this. Jesus is talking to one of the churches, and he says, nevertheless, I have a few things against you. There are some among you who hold to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin so that they ate food sacrificed to idols and committed sexual immorality. And that's in Revelations, the second chapter, the 14th verse. So you can see like the escapades of Balaam is talked about in the New Testament twice, once in 2 Peter, the second chapter, and once in Revelations, the second chapter. And because of these two scriptures, along with what happens immediately in chapter 25, we know that although Balaam could not curse the children of Israel, he could entice them to be able to curse themselves, which is exactly what happened. And so he told Balak that you just need to send your women there. They sent the women in, and basically the men of Israel fell to the women and started serving the gods that they served. And the god that they served was Baal. And so God was angry. I mean, I'm sure God was angry because right, in the very beginnings of them getting to know God from coming out of Egypt, when Moses first went on top of the mountain, years before this, he told them, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? So he told them this. So, and he says, I am a jealous God, right? He told them why. Because I am a jealous God. So God told them over and over again from that very first time in Exodus, the 21st chapter that we read about, all the way up to now, he has been telling them, don't serve any other God but me. Don't put me next to, no one compares to me. Don't compare me even with another God by putting a God next to me, right? But yet and still, they served Baal. And so God was angry. And if you read verse 4, it says, the Lord said to Moses, take all the leaders of these people, kill them and expose them in broad daylight before the Lord, so that the Lord's fierce anger may turn away from Israel. So basically he's saying everybody that's doing this, just kill them, and kill them in the sight of everybody, so that everybody can see, right, that this is wrong and this is the punishment for doing this. Since you couldn't just believe my word and believe what I said, then you're gonna have to see for yourself, right? Now, in the midst of this, the people were dying of a plague, and because they were just, out there serving Baal and denouncing God. And then we hear this story of an Israelite man who we later find out is called Zimri, who brings a Midianite woman. And they keep saying the difference between, they say Moabite woman and Midianite woman, because the Midianites were nomad people, and they would sort of just move around and go and stay from camp to camp with different not nationalities, but with different sects of people. And there were so many Midianites staying with the Moabites that it would be Midianite and Moabite women together. And so half the time you'll hear them saying Moabite women, and then the other half you'll hear them saying Midianite women. But this Midianite woman, apparently in Zimri, the Bible tells us in sort of vague terms that they were having sex, right? Because it says that when Phinehas, who is the son of Eleazar, who is the son of Aaron, came and thrust the sword, that he thrust it through the both of them, right? So they kind of had to be, laying on one another in order for it to go through the both of them. There are some theologians believe that they had gotten so brazen with their worship, and a lot of worship from these other sects of people had to do with their temple worship, and they had temple prostitutes, and they would give themselves up to sex gods and do sexual acts in order to please their gods. And so they believe, some theologians, that this was such a blatant response, or such a zealous response, I should say, from Phinehas, because Zimri took her to the front of the tabernacle and was actually having sex with her in the front of the tabernacle, but that it was so a gross inflammation of sin that they did not want to put it in exactly as it happened. But listen, let me tell you, Phinehas was like, we not having this. So he was a zeal of God. He like, this is not what we do. We're not about to defame God's name like this. We're not about to go out like this. And so Phinehas said, you know what? We not doing this. And so he took his sword and he lunged it. A spear actually lunged it between both of them and killed them. And then the plague stopped, right? But not before it killed 24,000 people. So the plague actually killed 24,000 people before it was stopped because of what Phinehas did. And God was trying to show them, the Israelites, that this is a very real thing. Like, serving Baal is not something you can do in casual, and just sleep with all these women that I told you not to, and then just sort of serve their gods. And sleeping with them wasn't like a race thing. We, Americans have really developed this concept of race. So it really wasn't about their race or their nationality, but it was really about their faith, about their religion, about, I don't want you mixing with them because they don't believe in me. God told them from the beginning, I am a jealous God. And so this is what happened. This plague came that was stopped only by Phinehas the priest saying, nope, not doing this, right? I think this is a good lesson. Now, we don't operate like this anymore. God, is the same today, yesterday, and forevermore, however. But we don't usually operate like this anymore. But I do believe the principle is still the same. It's when the man of God stands up and says no more, that's when the people of God will get in line. I think a lot of times we as leaders in the ministry, we don't say things that need to be said. I am a true believer in saying what is, but a lot of times people will sugarcoat, or they'll pacify, or they'll play down sin in order to not hurt other people's feelings, or in order not to call people out, or in order not to. And I'm a firm believer, that you have to call it what it is. And a lot of times when we dance around the issue, people are dying. 24,000 people died, right? People are dying while we're dancing around issues and playing with issues, trying to figure out the politically correct way to say what God has said blatantly from Genesis to Revelation. And so we don't really have to figure out a way how to say what God has already said. We just need to say what God has said. And let people take it up with God if they don't agree, right? If this is not me saying it, this is God saying it. And so we've got to learn how to stop dancing around issues while people are dying. Dancing around issues while people are dying. Dancing around issues while people are dying. We've got to just tell it like it is, so that people can look and live. We come out of chapter 25, enter chapter 26, and we are now counting again. And so if you remember, the first census was in the first chapter of Numbers, and they were counting all the fighting men, all of the military, all of the men who were 22 years and older. Well, it doesn't tell you this, and if you don't pay close attention, you might be like, why are we counting again so soon? But it's not so soon, right? Because actually, when we get to this counting period, and we don't really know from the time that God told them you're going to be in the wilderness, 1 year for every year that we're supposed to be exploring the land. So 40 years you're going to be in this wilderness. From the time he said it up until chapter 26, we kind of don't know how those years went, right? We don't know how close things happened to the previous and how close they happened to the now. So like even the story of Balaam, this is what I mean. Even the story of Balaam, we don't know if that happened the 5th year of the 40 years, or the 10th year, or the 25th year of the 40 year, or the 35th year of the 40 year. The Bible doesn't really time it out like that. But we do know all of those things happen within that 40-year period. And when we get to chapter 26, one thing we do know is that we are now 38 years after they have been roaming around in the wilderness. 38 years. So chapter 26 opens up 38 years of them from the time that the curse began. And so they began to count, and I wanted to share this picture with you guys. And let me see if I can post it on here. We're going to go and see what I can do. I should. Oh, you know what? I'm not sure if I'll be able to because it's not letting me do attachments. Let me see if I can do a copy paste real quick, guys. But I don't know what it's going to copy paste like. But we will try, okay? Nothing beats a fail but a try. Before, when I was posting pictures, I forgot I was really posting a link. Here, I wonder will it let me copy this picture. Let's see, guys. I'm going to try a couple of different things. Oh, wait. No, that won't work. Okay. Give me one more second, guys. Hang in there. Hang in there. We're going to try one more thing. I really want you guys to have this picture. Let's see. And for those who may be watching this via YouTube, who aren't watching it on Facebook Live and therefore won't get the picture, please feel free to text me and say, you know that picture you said and blah, blah, blah. Can you make sure I get that? Oh, look, I think it's going to go, guys. All right. Uh-oh. Did it go? Yay! All right, so it's kind of jumbled up, but you should see it there. So chapter 26 is all about the tribes, and they were counting by tribes again. And so this is a census. The first census was done the first year in the first chapter. I'm sorry, and then the second census is done in the 26th chapter. And so the picture is much better as a picture. It's kind of jumbled up here in the text, but you'll see the name. You'll see Reuben, right? Then you see where it says 46,500. That is how many was counted the first census. And then that second number, 43,730, is how many was counted the second census. And then that third number that says minus 2,770, that's how many people less from the first census than it was to the second census. So, and then the last number is the percent loss. So they lost. So Reuben lost 6%. You take time and read all of those. I just want to bring your attention to two of them. If you look right under Reuben is Simeon. Simeon started with 59,300 people in his tribe and ended with 22,200. He was down 37,100 people, 63%. So 63% lost in population in the tribe of Simeon. While as if you go down to Manasseh, hey honey, I see you out there. If you go down to Manasseh, you'll see Manasseh at first had 32,200 people in the tribe, and then had 52,700 people, which is a rise in population to 20,500. So they had a 64% increase in their population. So you can, it's funny because you can say what you want, but God had a way of honoring those tribes that honored him even in the wilderness, and dishonoring those that didn't, right? So you have to remember there was a lot of coups that happened in this 40 years. A lot of tribes that were against him, and a lot of tribes that went along with what other people said. A lot of them were wiped out by plagues here and there, right? And so you have to remember all of those times, and because of that, God did not increase them to birth the same. And some tribes lost population and some tribes gained population. So this is a very interesting, so I know it's probably a difficult read to read chapter 26, but it's some very detailed, interesting things in there that I wanted to point out that was very, very important, and that is the change in population and all that happened. And in all of that population change up and down, remember, they're in the wilderness 40 years, and they started with 603,550 people, but at the end of 40 years, they have less people, 601,730 people. They have 1,820 people less, or a 0.3% loss in population. So they're just about the same. Statistically, it's not significant difference. So they're just about the same, but you would think after 40 years their population would grow, right? But it couldn't, because everybody who actually went along with those 8 people that caused havoc, because they came back and said, it's too many giants over there, we can't do this. So because of 8 negative people reporting negatively, a whole generation was wiped out. A whole generation was wiped out. And so God said, you said, oh, you just brought us here to die in this wilderness? And God basically said, yep, so you will die in this wilderness. And so here you have proof that all of those people died. The only one that was left, the only 2 that were left from the tribes were Joshua and Caleb, because they had the good report, Joshua and Caleb. And so then we go on to chapter 27. And if you look at the end, at the end of chapter 26, he starts talking about the land and how they are to distribute the land. And basically he's saying tribes that have more should get more land, which makes sense, right? So if you have more people, you should get more land, right? So the bigger tribes would get a bigger portion of land, and the smaller tribes would get a smaller portion of land. The inheritance went proportionally to how many were actually in your tribe. And then I do want to mention and remind you that the Levites did not have an inheritance, and they were not counted for war. So if you see, the Levites weren't counted in the first chapter, and they weren't counted in the second chapter, not in this count for war. They were counted so that they could be, the firstborn could be redeemed through them, but they were not counted for war. They did not have an inheritance that came from the land. They were not allotted any land. They were to live amongst the children of Israel, and their inheritance was God himself. Their portion was the Lord, which is awesome in itself. It means they had to depend on the Lord for everything. Chapter 27 opens up with the daughters of Z. We're going to call them Z because I don't know how to pronounce that name. But the daughters of Z were like, whoa, wait a minute. So our daddy died, not because he was any corruption. He wasn't in any revolts or anything like that. He died because of his own sin, okay? So, he died, and now, according to the way you divvying up land right now, we not going to get nothing. So we don't feel like that's right. And so the daughters of Z came and talked to Moses and Eleazar and said, what's going on? What are we doing? Why can we have the land that would have been our father's? And Moses takes it to God, and God says, you know what? Yes, they can. They can have that land. Yes, they can. As a matter of fact, these are the new rules for that, right? And so God basically says, if a man dies with no sons, then the land goes to the daughters. If the man dies with no children, then the land goes to his brother. If he ain't got no brothers, then the land goes to, and God gives them, on and on and on, and tells them what to do. But that land was important. And the daughters of Z was like, we are not about to go without. So these daughters stood up, and the Lord said, it's a good thing they stood up. That's a wonderful thing that they stood up, and they stood up for their father's land, and because of it, they got their father's land. At the end of chapter 27, we have Joshua being selected as Moses' successor. God tells Moses, so we're going to take you up to the mountain, just like we took your brother up to the mountain. And I think that is just like, I'm trying to imagine what that would be like, because we read a few chapters ago that basically God told Aaron, you're going to walk up this mountain, you're going to take off your priestly garments, you're going to put them on your son Eleazar, then you just going to be up here, I'll take care of you, they're going to go back down. But this is your last walk up this mountain. And just what would that walk be like if you knew that you were about to die? You knew that you were about to die. What would the last walk up the mountain be about? And now Moses is facing that same thing. God told him explicitly. In verse 12, he says, then the Lord said to Moses, I'm in chapter 27, verse 12, go up this mountain in Ephraim range and see the land I have given the Israelites. After you have seen it, you too will be gathered to your people as your brother Aaron was. Listen, Moses is going up to the mountain and knows he's not coming back. What? How do you even fathom that, right? And why is this? Because maybe you forgot why. He gets to go up, he gets to see the land. He gets to see the promised land. Now, remind you, the Lord has been telling Moses about this promised land forever, right? And he has been instructing the people that this was a land flowing with milk and honey, and we're going to this wonderful, wonderful promised land. And now the land that he rescued them from Egypt to get them to, he's not going to see the land. He's not going to be able to cross into the land because he got frustrated with the people. That's what the Bible says. This is what God says. For when the community rebelled at the waters in the desert of Zin, both of you disobeyed my command to honor me as holy before their eyes. And so because he did not honor God as holy before the eyes of the people, yes, y'all making me upset. Y'all making me mad. Yes, what y'all doing is wrong, but you know what? God is still holy, and I have to honor God in his own holiness despite my feelings. I still got to obey God. Despite how I am frustrated, I still got to obey God. Despite how I'm just trying to figure out how y'all can even go here, I still got to obey God, because if I don't, then I become just like you. I am frustrated and disobeying God, right? You're frustrating and disobeying me, which is in essence disobeying God. So I am no better than the people if I get so frustrated that I can't complete my assignment, right? And I'm fussing at them for not completing their assignment. So Moses lost it. I mean, before this point, he was praying, he was interceding, he was going hard for the people. At this point, he kind of just, SMH, right? Shook his head. It was like, you know what? Am I forever going to have to get y'all water? Basically, that's what he said. We always got to get this water for y'all. And he took on the glory of God. At the same time, disobey God. God says, speak to the rock, and he hit the rock twice. Not once, but twice, right? So double disobedience, even if you will. And so because of that, he missed his own blessing because he got frustrated with the people. Ooh-wee, there's a reason. There is a reason that we have to keep calm, cool, collected, and make sure that we always know where our help comes from. Our help comes from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. We got to make sure that we don't get frustrated, that we aren't the ones that are trying to take on the responsibility of the people. When the people grumble, when the people complain, when the people are murmuring, when the people are dissatisfied, none of that is me. None of that is Bishop. All of that is God, and it needs to go straight through us to God. And the moment that we try to deal with that, the moment that we take it on to ourselves, we realize rather quickly that this is not our fight. We can't handle it. We're just going to be frustrated. The best thing to do is what Moses used to do, which was lay on his face and give it all up to the Lord, and then follow the instructions of the Lord. He laid on his face this time, but when he got up, he didn't leave everything down there. He began to take on to himself what he thought needed to be done, what he thought they needed to hear. He laid down angry and got up angry. He laid down frustrated and got up frustrated. He laid down like, I'm done with these people. I just can't with y'all. And he got up the same way. And because of that, he lost the ability to be the one that led them in to the very thing that he promised, that God promised them from the time that they left Egypt. And even in all of that, I mean, because his heart was pure, he just had a moment, right? That's why every now and then my husband will tell me, or every now and then I'll tell him, don't hit the rock, right? Got to tell each other, don't hit the rock, right? Because you can get frustrated enough to hit the rock. It's like, don't hit the rock. Don't lose your blessing trying to, correct someone else. Don't hit the rock. But because of the pureness of Moses' heart, even in this punishment, now he knows he's about to walk up the mountain to his death. He actually could definitely be like, peace, don't know what y'all gonna do. I'm out, right? I mean, Deuces, he really could. I mean, he really could. If he was a lesser man, he really could be like, y'all the reason why I'm losing my blessing in the first place. I'm just gonna go on up this mountain and look at what could have been, right? Ooh, that's I'm gonna keep that right there. But I'm gonna just go on up this mountain and look over, right? But that's not what he does. Listen to what he says. In verse 15 of chapter 27, he says, Moses said to the Lord, may the Lord, the God who gives breath to all living things, appoint someone over this community to go out and come in before them, one who will lead them out and bring them in, so the Lord's people will not be like sheep without a shepherd. Moses was still concerned about these people. He had a love for these people. He was still interceding for these people. He is about to walk up the mountain to his death, and yet is still concerned about, wait, who's going to take care of the people after I'm gone? Lord, please don't leave them like a sheep without a shepherd. And God honors him. He says, look, take your servant Joshua. Now remember, Joshua has been there with Moses from the very beginning. We can go all the way back to the beginning. He was going up the mountain with Moses. He was the one that went up halfway with him. Remember, he was the one out there fighting on the field. And every time that Aaron and Ur held up Moses' hands, remember this story? Joshua was down there fighting. So, I mean, Joshua has been every step of the way with Moses. He was one of the ones that went to explore the land and came back with a good report, him and Caleb. So Joshua, all along the way, has been following Moses, and now Moses gets to anoint him as his successor. And that's what he does. He anoints him as his successor in front of all of the people. He anoints him. And I want to say that I think that it's an awesome thing that God allowed someone to step in and take the place of Moses. And we're going to read way more about that as we go forth and get to the book of Joshua. We're going to read a lot about that. But Moses' heart is just beautiful to me. Just beautiful to me. I mean, he hit the rock once in life, but for the majority of the time, he just had a relationship with God and a love for God's people that was second to none. And then if we could, so the memory verse, I'm sorry, I should let you know, because I've been slipping with the memory verse and forgetting to tell you guys what it is. But I wanted that to be the memory verse, and that was verses 15 through 17, because I wanted to look at what a beautiful heart Moses had for people who, for the majority of the time, wanted to stone him and kill him. How many times did they rise up and basically say we should just go back to Egypt? At one point, they said, let's just stone him and find us another leader. They were not good to Moses. But yet and still, at the end, his heart for the people was huge. And so that 15th through the 17th verse of chapter 27 would be our memory verse for this section. Then this chapter ends on chapter 28 with just another reminder to the people of what the daily offerings were, what the Sabbath offerings were, the monthly offerings, the Passovers, the festivals, all of the things that we have already talked about. God reiterates them again through Moses here, just to remind the people, you've heard this before. Don't forget to do these things. All of the things that I told you about, don't forget to do these things. And that is how it ends. And so that is the ending of our reading today. We read 25 through 28 today. We're going to pick up in our next video with talking more about the festivals. Chapter 29 will wind up to talk about the festivals, but it's sort of the rest of the chapter is a reminder of stuff that has already been said. So you'll be reading it and you'll say, oh, well, we already read this. But remember, when we read it at the second year of them coming out of Egypt, right? That's when we read it. And now when we're reading it again and seeing it said again, this is like the 38th year of them coming out. And so for us, it's like, we just read this. But for them, it's like they're hearing it again 38 years later after they have been roaming around in a circle. And understand, they've been roaming around in a circle. And people, can you imagine the amount of people that had to die? Remember, the original census was 600,000 something people. And all but 2 of those 600 something thousand people died in a 38-year period. That's massive. I mean, that's massive. You can't just sometimes read the Bible and not really think about how massive that is. And so they were just roaming around for 38 years as people died, probably on a daily basis. Probably people were dying, and they were roaming around for 38 years simply because they would not move on what God said. They believed the report of scared men over the report of the Lord who had told them, I am giving this to you. And so because of that, for 38 years they wandered. You got a whole new generation now that has been raised up, and now they need to hear what they may not have been told by their ancestors, or by their fathers and their mothers may not have told them. But God wants to make sure that they have no excuse. So Moses here is going through it again. He's telling them about the feast again, telling them about the vows. We're going to read all of some of the things that we've read before, and then we're going to start talking about the division of the land. Before they even go to it, they're going to start dividing it up. All right, we will continue this in our next video. Again, it'll be either Saturday or Sunday, depending on how time goes. But until next time, you be blessed. You keep reading. Don't forget to read. And remember that I love you and God loves you too. In Jesus' name, amen.